Monster families ranked. The ones that look like from Rick and Morty. Let's go. First of all, let's get the basics out of the way because all of the weapon masters share the same first skill. That one's Glaive Slash. It hits twice and tries to apply a heal block, which nowadays hitting more than once is already pretty good. You can already tell that these guys are going to do great with additional damage artifacts. Now there are two options for second skills. The first one is Weakness Shot, which tries to apply a 2-turn brand and then hit 3 more times. The damage increases the lower the enemy's HP is. The second option is Storm Scythe. This one's an AoE attack that's going to try to block buffs and apply a glance. That didn't sound like it was the end of the sentence, but it was. Both of those are for 2 turns, and it scales with the enemy's max HP. We're gonna start in the usual order with fire first. Carlos got a whole monster spotlight on the channel. I straight up revived a series for this guy. I love him to bits, but don't worry, bias has no place in this series. Now, for the top 8 monsters of 2022, it definitely has a place in that one. Highlights for him: dope passive that leads to hype moments. Actually, most great things about him relate back to that passive. It boils down to this: he gets 100% attack bar whenever any monster is defeated, not just your allies. He can also gain up to 300% attack power, and that's based on half of the most recently defeated monster's attack. He's got Weakness Shot as his second skill, so big single target damage is what he's after, and he also has a 24% crit rate lead. His water brother is Liam. Liam's third skill is actually my favorite book. That thing just goes on and on. So let me just give you a summation of it. Liam is one of the 2 weapon masters who can hit AoE, but it changes depending on the enemy conditions. If there's a full team, meaning 4 or more on the other side, he'll attack AoE with damage that scales the higher the enemy's HP is, and he'll try to stun. Now, if there are 3 or fewer enemies, then he'll instead hit the single target 6 times and ignore more defense the lower their HP is. His second skill is Storm Scythe, which, I don't know, I feel like that works really well for him. That way he's never without an AoE option, even if there are fewer than 4 monsters in play. Liam also has a 33% attack lead. Dominic. I reckon you've had just about enough of Dominic. Dominic is one of those monsters that's either your favorite or least favorite, depending on which side of the field he's on. Dominic is the second weapon master with Weakness Shot as the second skill, but it's made even better with him because it comes with 1 more hit. His passive, Improvisation, adds 1 more hit to every attack he makes on his turn. This hit importantly deals damage equal to 200% of your attack power. And it has an additional effect. If he's below half health, it'll add a vampiric effect equal to half the damage dealt. If he's over half health, it'll reduce the enemy's attack bar by 30%. What's even greater about that passive is that means he gets so much attack out of so little that you can even ruin him on, say, speed, HP, and go purely for attack in the substats, and he'll still do crazy damage. It should also be noted that he has a 33% HP lead. Benedict is very much akin to Dominic and shares the same mission statement of do a lot of damage, but executes on it in a mechanically different way. Rather than a hit doing additional damage, the damage actually ignores defense. Sometimes. Anyway, what's the difference? Who cares is really the answer. Heck, their passive skill icon is even the same. That is not true. You should care. He also hits 1 more time just like Dominic, but it absorbs 30% of their attack bar if they're above 30% health, and if they're below 30%, he'll ignore defense. Bear that in mind. He has a 41% accuracy lead. Lastly, it's Maximilian, but I just call him Max. His third skill attacks all enemies 4 times and then proceeds to do a lot. In fact, it's very close to doing everything you can do in Summoner's War. That's an exaggeration, but listen to this. In order, the hits will try to apply defense break, attack break, a 2-turn dot, and then he'll try to absorb 25% attack bar. That means there's a world where he can do all of that and then get 100% attack bar by the end. So it's his turn again. He is the second weapon master with Storm Scythe as a second skill. Oh, and he has a 24% speed lead, as if all that wasn't enough. Let's rank them. I want to reiterate that the weapon masters are a pretty incredible family, but the nature of this series is that someone has to be last. That does not mean that they're bad. It just means they're not the greatest in the family. Number 5, Benedict. He's very similar to Dominic, but that 30% threshold is actually kind of rough, because that basically means that the enemy would have to be so low, he may have been able to confirm the kill without that ignore defense anyway. Granted, he absorbs attack bar, so he's gonna get more turns than your average weapon master, but God forbid they resist the attack bar reduction. Number 4, Liam. Liam's flexibility is actually really solid. The fact that he can be AoE control when you need it or a single target burst later on is great. The only downside to that is that you have less control over when it activates. But that means that his home could also be in Guild Wars or Arena, where you have that control, or in the case of Guild Wars, where there are only 3 enemies to begin with. Number 3, Carlos. The thing about Carlos is that he can turn negatives into positives and positives into winning the game. If you lose a unit, you get a turn. If you kill a unit, you get a turn. That sounds like a win-win to me. Now number 2 and number 1 are really close, but Maximilian is gonna take number 2. There's not much to say here. Maximilian is incredible. He's got a 24% speed lead, and he tries to do pretty much everything you can do in the game on that 3rd skill. He's insane as a cleave option, but there's a lot of options for cleave. So that means that I'm gonna have to give number 1 to Dominic. As far as that consistency goes, Dominic is probably the best of the bunch. He can set up for a reckless, or he can take an early kill. He's even barely daunted against fire monsters because that additional damage can't glance. So more often than not, he feels like an LD monster. But what do you guys think? That's my ranking of the weapon masters, but let me know what places you put them in. I'd love to compare lists, and tell me your experiences with each one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Also, leave me a comment with what monster family you want me to address next, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.